Hello. Hi. Dzień dobry. Okay, so first thing, I really wasn't aware that this is sort of like a keynote presentation, so I apologize in advance. And the second thing is I'm really not good at titles. So it is called Building Relationship with Your Users. But the longer title that I first came up with was Building Relationships with Your Users, how we managed to deliver user value through building trust. That wasn't a good title. Anyway, a little bit about myself, more things you already know. Now I work at Atlassian. I'm a subject matter expert in product modeling at the University of Humanities and Social Sciences in Sopot. And I used to work in Wikia, which is now called Fandom. That doesn't matter that much. And today, I'm going to tell you about what we did in Atlassian when we built a customer feedback program and why we did that, the benefits of such program, and the challenges that we faced during building the initiative. But first, building relationships. So you may think, and that you will be right, that building relationships with your customers is like pretty obvious, right? It's well, of course, you have to build good relationships with your customers, but we tried to use that in user research. And why, right? You may think, okay, Atlassian, don't you have a user research team? Like, why would you have to do things like that? Well, we do have a research and insights team, and they give us a lot of good data, but we needed a different type of insights. And actually, in order to explain why we needed this different type of insights, it would be useful to tell you what was the problem space we were working at. And the problem space is called customer migration, or how we sometimes call it, transformation from server to cloud. And if that doesn't tell you much, it's okay. It didn't tell me much either at the beginning when we started in 2020. And frankly, it's a very changeable, chaotic space. A space where there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of flux. So we are moving in like a constant state of change. So you may think that, and you will be right again, that this is not the easiest space to research. But to actually give you more like context, what is this space about? Let me start with a metaphor. Okay, so imagine you're tasked with designing an experience for a customer that wants to move houses, and the current house that they have is a large country manor. It has been built for generations. It's filled with weird paraphernalia from other generations, and like there are many people living there, a lot of things in the basement, a lot of things in the attic. There's like a mess. Okay? It's nice, cozy, but a mess. And that user, that customer, wants to migrate to a shiny, new, luxurious villa. Okay, so it's not that difficult, right? So we wanted to design the full experience of this customer moving from A, the manor, the server, to B, the villa, the cloud. And we had a couple of data already, right? So that research and insights that I mentioned before, they gave us like the number of boxes that is needed to move from one house to the other, so some quantitative data, the name of the moving company that was used a couple of times, or some stories from other users, other people that moved houses in the past. And they moved those houses from small house to a small flat. So when we looked at the data that we had, it wasn't really comparable. So you may already sense that there was a lot of gaps that we needed to fill and some bigger story to build, and we were lacking data. We were lacking that different type of insights. So hence, a thing that we now call customer feedback program was born. And I say it's called like this now because it went through like 3 name changes. I said at the beginning, I'm not really good with titles. I'm not really good with names either. So what a customer feedback program is, I think it's best to describe by telling what are its benefits. But maybe let me first give you like a quick snippet. It's a set of regular calls with chosen customers and with different shape and form, not customers, different shape and form, the meetings. It's also mutually beneficial beneficial for both sides, for us and the customer. And I think you'll get a bigger picture when I go through the benefits. So the first benefit that a program like that brought us is the chance to have regular meetings with the same customer. Now, the researchers in the room may already feel like a red bulb coming because there is a high risk here that you need to look out for, like a risk of bias. Because if you talk over and over with the same set of customers, you will get really biased. You can get a tunnel vision. And that's the thing you need to look out for. But on the other side, the fact that you have the meetings with the same customer every month allows you to see the journey as they progress. So imagine they started in that manner, so on server, and we watch them packing, we watch them going through all the stuff they have in the basement and using some of our fixes to move to the villa faster. So that's a big benefit for us. Another plus is the ability to have a quick validation of assumptions. So when we started those 2 years ago, we had a lot of ideas and no way to validate whether they were good. I mean, there were some ways we could build a whole research program, engage the research and insights team, write up the whole one-pager on what are the goals, and we would be like a quarter in and no value would be delivered. So the fact that we've managed to start with the program gave us a way to quickly validate all our assumptions and test the ideas. But there is also a risk here, and it's tied with jumping around topics and ideas. Now imagine you have your head filled with all those good ideas that can help your customer, and you talk with one customer, the other one, and someone tells you, hey, that's a nice thing, I would like to use it. Actually, that happens to us. And then you run a risk of dropping everything else and jumping on that one idea and basically pivoting towards something that may help that one customer, but you're not sure whether it's going to help all the others. So it really helps in how to mitigate this risk is prioritizing those ideas and looking, not jumping to conclusions too fast. Another plus is getting access to the right people. And actually, there's no risk here. This is like full, like 100% benefit, although it takes some time to actually get those people to come to your meetings. But in the end, it's really worth it. So if you have, like us, in migrations, a very complex end user, a cohort that differs from customer to customer, but underlyingly, it has the same goal to go to the villa, to go to the cloud, then program like that can help you basically create a short list of the right people that you can talk to and the people that actually are going to use your solutions. And like on enterprise, great. So it's not like the end user clicking somewhere, it's the end user that deals with high-level decisions. And another benefit is getting access to early beta testing pool. Now, it's really connected to the previous one, getting access to the right people, but on a bit more practical level. So when we were working on some solutions for the migration, we had a couple of features in early development phase. And we actually went through the development phase together with some of our customers. And they were really eager to try out those features. We weren't yet ready to release them. So the fact that we have a number of customers willing to test the features in their own context, in their own environment, was actually very, very useful to us, especially that our customers are actually different from environment to environment. So there are a lot of edge cases that we couldn't cover, that they helped us cover. But you sense there was going to be a risk. So here, remember, of course, never to use this as the only way to test a feature. Like, you can't count on that. You need to test the feature in-house, of course. And not only because, well, it doesn't scale, but also that your customers or your users, they have their own plans. So even if they tell you, yes, of course, I will test it, they will not. So we had one feature being developed, and we had about 10 customers signing up for the shortlist. And only 3 tested the feature in the end. And out of those 3, only 2 tested the feature in time for us to actually apply feedback. So yeah, there's a serious risk there. But looking from the other side on the benefits, when I mentioned that this program is something that should be mutually beneficial, for our customers, this was the chance to get insights straight from the horse's mouth, like straight from us. Look at the roadmaps, look at the plans. One of the customers, a large European bank, told us even that this helped them pre-plan their migration, basically, like push some things further, move some things closer in the timeline, because they knew things are coming and they could actually test some solutions earlier. However, if the customer gets too involved in that, there's a serious risk, because they may feel they have the right to tell you what to develop next. And well, actually, they kind of do, but we can't actually promise them things. We can't tell them that we're going to drop everything and deliver this one feature just for you, because it's not like we're doing this for one customer. And some of them may have that that point of view. And this is a thing that you also need to look out for when building, designing, and then running the program. All right, we talked about the benefits, but of course, there's also a thing when not to create a feedback program. When a thing like this is just not worth it, or yeah, most of the time, you're going to tell. Okay, so don't invest your time and effort in building a thing like this if all of your projects or of your products have a totally different target user. So that goes for agency mode working. Like, I actually don't see it working in an agency when you have to jump from customer to customer, from target user to target user. It just takes too much time to kick off the whole thing. Don't invest your time if you already have an easy access to your target users. So if your end users are coming to you on their own, or you have already a trusted group of users, there's no need to invest more time in building the whole program around it. When I was working in Wikia, we had a very robust community of end users that were just eager to tell us everything. And that was sort of like a proto customer feedback program. We didn't ask them, they just told us everything. I loved them, actually. And they were really, really blunt about telling us stuff. So in that time, there was no need in building the whole structure around it. Right, another thing, if you're working in a stable, well-researched problem space. As you may remember, the migration, especially 2 years ago, that was like in constant state of change. So it was easier to validate each month an idea than basically run a whole research program. So yeah, if you're working in a stable environment, lucky you. And also, you don't need to invest your time. And the last and the most important one, if you cannot commit to regularity of meetings, because you're trying to build a relationship with customers, so if you can't commit to regularly meet with them every month, or whichever cadence you want to set, then there's why bother, basically, don't do that. It's like, this is going to be even worse than a long-distance relationship kind of thing. All right, but let's assume you actually have one or very closely together set target users. You don't have an easy access to them. You don't work in a stable problem space, and you can commit to regular meetings. So then how can you kick off a program like that? So I think the best way to tell you is we'll be going through the challenges that we faced when starting, and how we managed, sometimes not really yet manage, to tackle them. All right, the first one, the attendees, or getting the right people and maintaining the bond. The attendees are going to be the most important part of the program, of course. And, well, today we have, in our program, we have around 10 enterprise customers and 6 solution partners. Solution partners are companies that help our customers. So they're kind of like a proxy Atlassian, kind of. But we didn't start like that. We started small. We started from 2 customers. For us, actually, that wasn't very difficult to find because we have a whole network of connections. So you may think now, yeah, Atlassian, it was easy for you. You have everything on speed dial. Yes and no. but if you don't have your customer on speed dial, I think it's also beneficial to look at communities of users of your product. Build a group of people who would like to give feedback. Something similar to what we had in Fandom Wikia days, but more structured, maybe. It's important to start from a goal, so a thing you want to achieve, the feedback, the type of feedback you want to get, and shortlist the possible attendees. What can be problematic here is maintaining the bond. So when you scale and you keep on adding new users and meeting with them, there's a certain point when it stops being really about building relationship and gets into the kind of like a process. So it gets a bit more impersonal. And that is the thing that you need to watch out for. The moment when you're just going through the checklist and just meeting with a customer because this is on your to-do list, and not meeting with a customer because there's something you want to learn or you want to show to the customer. There's also another thing that's important with the attendees, and that's when don't be afraid to drop people from the program. I know we stayed with a couple of attendees a bit too long. So there was one customer, another big European bank that looked really good on paper, and they were very eager to take part in the program. But, they did show up at the meetings, but there was no value in them. We presented a topic, we asked questions, we showed some demos, and the only reaction was like, yeah, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, we actually should have cut that, let's say in January, we cut that in April, there were a couple of lull months. Good advice, basically cut them off. But nicely, right? It's not like you're out. It's more like, it looks like we're not getting value from those meetings. Perhaps we could change the schedule. And if you're wondering why I'm not telling you the names of the customers, I'm really sorry, but there's a lot of NDAs. So, can't. Another challenge, the plan. So making sure when you start off, you have material for at least 3 months ahead. This is the thing we didn't have. This is the thing we didn't plan out. And we were so eager to just get going. We had those 2 or 3 customers lined up. And we had a couple of things in development. So yeah, what can go wrong? Well, we ran out of topics. We ran out of topics on the 2nd month, and there was like a big all hands on deck kind of situation where we were going through all the plans that were like plan E or plan F, kind of. We're not showing that to anyone to basically fill in the void. So good way here is good advice is to don't kick off as early as possible. Kick off when you're really, really prepared. Another challenge, the topics. It's kind of connected with the plan. And the topics, this is important to keep things interesting and relevant to the customer. As the program grows, there will be some risk of topics that are repeatable, things that some other teams will want to ask the customer about that you've already asked them about 2 months ago. So what's important here and what worked for us is to keep a matrix of sorts of a customer versus a topic, how good is the customer alignment with a topic, Will they be interested in it? And going with the whole thing of mixing and matching. And if it sounds like a really tedious work, it is, but it's really useful. Some of these stories from like war stories that happened to us during the topics challenges is we had one attendee. Actually, it wasn't just one. I think it was 4 meetings that came to the meeting and didn't know anything about the topic. So we had the topic we had an agenda. The agenda was known to the customer a week or 2 weeks ahead, and we were under an assumption that they're interested in, that was user migration. But when the customer came to the meeting, they were like, oh, I'm sorry, but I'm actually from a different department. We're not dealing with user migration. And you have like 45 minutes ahead of you of a meeting that. So there are 2 ways to deal with that. The first one is, I'm really sorry. We don't want to waste more of your time. We're going to meet in the month with a different topic, or maybe the same, and just please bring someone that is from your company that is interested. And the other one, the one that I actually would recommend, is to have a plan B, or plan C even, like a neutral topic that is always waiting somewhere, as like most probable on your hard drive or in the cloud, that you can just pull out and present. And sometimes it's a demo of a feature, sometimes it's the roadmap plans, sometimes it's just an idea or an impromptu workshop that we run with those customers also. And that helps them, or us actually, not to waste this time and use it up. Another thing, the last one, I promise, is the scale. So there are a lot of challenges with scaling the program. As I mentioned at the beginning, when you start small with a small number of attendees and you start to ramp up the plan, the topics, there will be a moment when you would like to have more types of the same cohort of customers, a little diversity with a different type of customers, different sizes. And there is a risk there, because you need to remember to expand responsibly. If you're the person running the program, you may get overwhelmed with scheduling, time zones, keeping up the metrics, keeping up all the teams involved, informed what's going on. What's important here is, well, know when to scale, when you've got the capacity to take this on, and also ask for help. Like for us, this was, for me especially, this was a moment when I really appreciated help from a colleague from US, so he could cover different time zones, and help from a program manager. Program manager is a person in Atlassian that deals with all organizational stuff. They're kind of like Scrum Masters and Google Calendar combined. I hope our program manager, Victoria, doesn't hear this, as I compared her to the calendar. Anyway, basically, with scale, with challenges with scale, when you're at this stage, get help, get another people working together with you on the program. You may think like, okay, if you've got 10 customers and 6 solution partners, there are 16 altogether, it's not much. It's 16 hours a month. You have to prepare for each of those. You have to debrief after them. It grows, and then you probably also need to work, probably. So, yeah, please remember about responsibility here. All right, I promise that was the last thing. So, some key takeaways. First, having a group of users available at hand helps in validating assumptions quickly and often. I can't stress this enough. It's sort of like either ramp up the whole research program or have that group waiting in the wings and just throw ideas at them. Another thing, building relationship and trust with customers helps in gathering additional context and data. Again, this is additional context and data, not the main source of your information, because customer feedback program will never substitute thorough research. And now probably all researchers in the room can say, okay, good, yes, we shouldn't basically substitute a small sample for a full-blown research. And the last thing, good organization. That's very, very important. Like, without help, without people supporting you, you may fall flat on your face while working on a program like this. Okay, thank you so much for your... And I think now it's time for questions.
Thank you so much. It's time for questions. I'm not going to enter the audience. I'm looking for people who want to ask questions. You can ask them in Polish and English. There's one, even more people. Great.
Dobrze, pytanie będzie po polsku.
So the question is going to be in Polish. I would like to ask you about merging the customer feedback program and research. Can you take the pool of beta testers into the in-depth interviews? Is it better to keep it separate, or is there a middle ground?
Dobra, więc tak, przede wszystkim tak, disclaimer.
A disclaimer.
Nie jestem researcherem.
I'm not a researcher. So whoever is an actual researcher here, believe them, not me. Can you merge beta testers with the rest of the research? That's what you're asking about. I think you can, of course. A few times it happened that we moved out of the program, beyond the program with the...
Znajdowaliśmy tam 5, po czym dołączali się kolejni, ale to może być trochę specyfika pracy w Atlassianie, ponieważ
characteristic, because some client advisors got to know something like that was happening, so they were adding their clients and customers to the pool, telling us, look, I've got like a financial institution here from the States. They could be interested as well, so would you like to drop them into your testing pool? Later it happened that people who were only in the testing pool actually entered the program. So it is a mix and match situation. You have to pay attention whether a given customer or user is going to bring the value, a long-term value. Is it worth meeting them? Is it going to be mutually beneficial as a relationship, or maybe a one-time thing as far as value is concerned?
In English, what is a good way to kick off a series of those meetings if the company hasn't practiced it yet?
Good question. So technically, our company, or the org, the part of organization that I'm a part of, didn't kick off anything like that before. So it was like the first sort of like pilot program. A good way would be, if you have like stakeholders to convince that this is valuable, I believe it would be to build a case for your program. Show what's the value behind it. Why would it be beneficial for your team, for the company to have a program like that? Also show the risks, maybe, that it does take time to get in full swing. It will require time and effort on your side, but in the end, it may be beneficial. It's good to get backing from your stakeholders, so from someone that actually is a decision maker in a company. And it's kind of like maybe a weird advice sound, but you may try to run a very small program as a pilot to show to the stakeholders the value. So let's say choose one customer to have meetings like that for a month, for more than a month, 2 or 3, and after those 3 months, bring the results to your stakeholders to show, okay, you know, we had those meetings with customer XYZ. These are the things we learned that we didn't know about before, and we weren't even aware that things like that were a problem, and now we are, so maybe it's worth to expand it. So that may be useful, I think, to kick off.
Cześć.
Thank you for your presentation. It was really great. My question is, what was the effect after you executed this program? What problem have you actually solved? I'm very curious to hear about it. So there were many problems actually, but one big goal we had in the beginning was to understand what actually is the pain of our biggest clients and customers during transformation, so migration. We were lacking the first-hand info about it. We only had the dry data, some stories from the past. Our main goal was to facilitate transformation into cloud for clients larger than 1,000 users. Within this program, we managed to validate a few of the solutions that helped our clients. One of the most important ones was what we call application tunnels, which enables combining and connection between the server environment and the cloud environment without setting up firewall, because it blocked the clients a lot, and we had no idea about it before we started talking to them. They were just saying, oh, we don't like the idea of the cloud. Other features was user management in the cloud that we learned about during the program. That the smaller ones migrate and manage their users with no problems, but the larger companies have such complex environments and Active Directory is so combined, identity management so combined, that transferring from one environment to the other is really problematic to them. So we are in the process of solving this problem. It's a very complex problem in general, but there are some successes already in this area. So there is a checklist of that. We can talk about it later during the break. Thank you so much. I'm curious how many people on your side were engaged into creating this program. Did you make up a special team for that task? A team would be a great solution, but we haven't got there yet. From the beginning, there were 2 people engaged, one product manager and I. At the moment, in the core team, we've got 4 people there. Beside me, there is product manager who changed in the meantime. There's a program manager helping us to schedule the things up, and another designer who is covering another time zone that what I'm working with. There's also the support from all the teams in the organization, migration organization, because as we are expanding, we were inviting other teams to collaborate with us a little bit in kind of luring them in, showing them that we have certain clients, so maybe there's something you would like to show us. If you can remember the challenges, the area of topics here was a problematic one at the beginning because we couldn't, within the challenging of the plan, we couldn't fill in the agenda with our work, by itself. So we managed to include other migration teams, and they fill the agenda in for the next 3 months efficiently. Putting it shortly, core team, 4 people plus whoever is willing to help. Let me also remind you, you can use Slido to ask questions. From Slido, I would like you to ask a question.
How do you find balance between business objectives and user needs?
Very good question, and I don't think there's a really good answer to that. And there is like one answer that says it depends. No, actually, we try, like I personally, go for the user needs when after the program prioritizing the features that need to be developed. But in Atlassian, we have a thing that we call the triad that governs a team, and then like an org, and there are like triads on those of you who think about now the Chinese mafia. No, there's a different kind of triad. So the triad is product manager, designer, and tech lead. And all together, we decide what's the best course for the product, the team, and the feature. And this helps us find the balance. So there are, heated discussions, of course, but in the end, we try to align with the goals that we have set on higher levels, so like company level objectives, and see if the feature that we want to develop aligns with it, and how can we deliver more value, the biggest amount of user value that we can with that feature. That's actually designer's goal in that equation.